Hey, we're back here, man. We're back here.
We're back.
Yes.
Round two.
Round two.
Yeah.
So we had some connectivity issues in the episode number 1, and I just want to kind of let you know. And I had to cut most of the Q&A session that I had with Mike. Because of that, we're back here to record just a Q&A session, so we can give you guys and share it with you guys some of kind of the questions that I'm hearing from customers. Mike is hearing from customers as well, and others are hearing in the community, etc. So I want to make sure that we address those questions here, and then to give you an opportunity, of course, to ask your questions in the comment section of this video. So thank you so much for Mike for doing this again. He's the nicest guy around. Thank you again, Mike.
No problem.
Yeah, so let's do that then. So let's jump into it.
Yeah. Let's do
Okay, so first question, Mike, that I hear a lot, I've been hearing a lot from customers is, okay, we have these different policy authoring experiences in Intune today, right? So you have device configuration profiles, you have endpoint security, and then now we have settings catalog, right, with all the improvements, etc. Are there any plans? Are there any plans to merge and unify those experiences?
So one of the things I'll touch on is since Intune has been around, it's been an iterative experience on how we're building out settings. So new settings come out, we add them. We've been trying to close the gap. The iterative experience was very hand built in sometimes. So we'll hand build policy with logic based on research and things like that. And so there's a lot of work that goes into the settings that we have now. This is a little more of a streamlined system on how we are basically ingesting and approving and testing all these settings now. They're built directly off of the CSP, or the configuration service provider, definition file. So not only do we get the logic about the setting, I think in the demo I talked about the tooltips being directly driven off of all of that goodness. The dependency logic, whole bunch of good information in there, applicability, all that stuff. And so our goal was to really build that out first as a foundation. And the spirit of settings catalog is, hey, we've built all this. Let's show everyone. Let's make all these things available. So if you've been waiting and the reason you haven't deployed or you haven't migrated is because you're missing this one setting, we're going to say, hey, we're just going to give you the tool. You can create your own policy out of whatever you want. Add whatever you want. If you want to have 100 settings in there, 1,000 settings in there, you can do it. If you want to have 3, you can do that too. If you want to build your own baseline and say, hey, we're going to put this in settings catalog, that's fine too. What we're going to do then is move on from there and say, all right, now we have the foundation, and then go back and look at other places. So templates. So we're using the term templates to refer to any time that we're basically curating, or there's a collection of settings together in a single experience. And then a baseline is simply a template with recommendations on it. So instead of you thinking about, oh, I have to set this setting, is that over in endpoint security? Is it over here? Is it in device restrictions? Is it in administrative templates? Is it over here or somewhere else? Is it supported? Now you can say if the envelope of things supported in Intune versus what there's in Windows, that should be quickly collapsing the gap there. Windows is also expanding their settings available, so they've added a big envelope, 1,600 settings or so for Windows Insiders right now,
right.
Based on customer requests and based on customer need. And so settings catalog will show you everything. Eventually, you'll see templates. If it's security focused, you'll see it in endpoint security, but also in device configuration. So we're going to clear some of that up. If it's security focused and you're a security admin, it's going to show up in endpoint security. But if you're just device config, you'll see all that good stuff as well in device config. So we're really doubling down, trying to just simplify stuff. And this is really just the first step in that direction is settings catalog.
Cool.
So yeah.
Cool. No, this is great. Excellent. I think you addressed that one very well. Let's see what people say about that, but I think that's well answered. So number 2, let's say thinking about migration, right? So that's the question I want to make for you here is, okay, should people think about migration in the future? Like, for example, I have created a policy using what I call traditional device configuration profile.
Yep.
Now I want to create kind of the same policy because it's easier to do in the settings catalog or, in endpoint security, etc. I think we would apply kind of the same scenario. Should people think about migrating those settings over? What would be your recommendation, or how should they think about that?
So as we continue on, there will be some more bells and whistles that we add into the settings catalog. If you
Hmm.
want to take advantage of those, feel free to do that. There's no call to action though to say take everything you have and go move it over here by X date or anything like
That's
that. There's
important to note.
no
Okay.
need. Yeah, no need to uh, change things over by all means. Um, if you have been like waiting for one or two settings or a handful of settings that are now in the settings catalog, all of our conflict detection and reporting and conflict resolution should all play nice. So if you do have some of those settings and you want to like sort of build a supplemental policy the same way you might today between device restrictions and like administrative templates or something like that. Same idea. So you can have them live side by side. And we basically what we do is we take all the assignments and do magic and figure out based on your superset of groups and you're in this group and not that group and this is include and this group's excluded from this other policy. We build that all into one SyncML document and send it down. And if there's a conflict, we'll let you know in the same way we have today. If you have the same value, that's fine. If you have conflicting values, that's where we're starting to get into some of the conflict resolution zone.
That's okay. Cool. I have two
Yeah.
questions there. I think one you just already answered about conflict
Mm.
resolution, which is
Hmm.
correct if I'm wrong. For now, it's going to be like a manual process in the like for example, the admin has to go to the console, take a look at the policies. We're gonna let them
Hmm.
know if there's a conflict, of course. But
Yeah.
then there's like a when they act to resolve the conflict, it's a manual process, right? That's what you mean.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be a manual process. And we looked at things and we got feedback around like, if we could automate it, should we? Really? Because we can build whatever we need to build to help it. But if we automated that and we did like most secure wins, then you get yourself into a bucket
Mm.
of, okay, we can do most secure wins. And you say this person needs a 12 character passcode and this one needs a 4. And then if they have both, you're like, well, 12 should win. But in cases like a help desk where they need to maybe get in on a device or something like that, we can't really assume or do most secure wins. And so when we're looking at it, what we're thinking about right now is if we can find out some way that we can deterministically say, because today we just say don't have conflicts, and if you do, remove one of them or change it or change your grouping so that you don't have a conflict. There are some places in endpoint security today where based on the type of setting, we'll do a merge. Um, and those are documented on the ones that we do the merges. And moving forward, we're super 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 hyper focused and hyper aware on trying to make that a better experience. And we got some stuff that we're thinking about right now that we think will do that, but nothing really concrete to bring forward yet. But today it's all the same as what there is today. And the nice thing about that is if you do detect that you have a conflict, or you get a report that says you have a conflict, and one of them's in settings catalog, you can simply click that minus button, set it to not configured, and then everything will basically recompute and send it down.
There we go. So you got
Yeah.
to the point. Like I had this question for. I think it's really good for you to clarify this for customers. Can you talk a little bit about tattoo removal? Like what it kind of the tri-state, kind of each one of them means, etc. How
Yeah.
should people think about those?
Yeah. So historically, we might have two settings. So tri-state is kind of has become a coined term where we would say like allow or block. And if a setting supports allow or block, allow doesn't really do a whole lot, but it's in the policy, so you put it as allow. Um, in the future, we want to be able to provide a not configured state. So allow will conflict with block. Not configured won't conflict with block or allow, actually, if you really want to get technical. And so by opening up that not configured state, it gives us that tri-state experience of this thing's just not even in my policy. In settings catalog, it just won't even be in your policy. So you don't have to worry about it. You can remove it out. When you do remove it, the next time that device syncs, we'll see the delta and we'll issue the remove. But I'm sure as you've seen, right, you mentioned the term tattoo removal. We get questions about tattoo removal a lot. Um, and usually what it refers to is some CSPs and their behavior when they get a remove command and what
Correct.
they actually go do. So if I do a remove command to passcode enforcement, it won't go wipe your passcode out. It just means the next time you change it, you don't have to have 16 complex characters. You can have, you know, whatever you like for that. Or like, do you have an example of a specific one?
Well, like for example, is it safe to say? Let's confirm it with you here. This with you here. Is it safe to say if I have a setting that's doing something, right? It's allowed there's some values there, etc. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to
Mm-hmm.
reset that because
Mm-hmm.
now I want to reapply a different value for that specific configuration that I'm going to be doing
Mm-hmm.
this through settings catalog now with a different policy that I'm going to create, etc. Not configured should be used to reset that setting to its default state. That's my understanding, correct? And
It
then after you
should.
do that, you configure the new policy, the new values, etc. That's what I'm trying to clarify.
Yeah, yeah. The reason why I'm, and you're probably the same, hesitant to say like, yes, this is what it does. Some CSPs react differently. Some CSPs
Oh, okay.
require
Yeah.
another value written over for it. There is no default. Like a good example that is just like coming out of my head is back in Windows Phone days for App Locker, you couldn't reset it back to a 0. You had to set it to something else. So we would, if you had like an allow list with 6 apps or something, and you just wanted that off the device, you could send a block list for like one app that you don't expect anyone to use and stuff like that. Most of that has worked its way out through design over, the decade it's been in use. Maybe decade. That might be a little generous. Uh, about a decade. Well, 2020 felt like it like 6 years, so
Right.
we'll say a decade. Um, so
Exactly.
yeah. For the most part, yeah, we'll send the remove. It'll be considered not configured. And actually, the way Windows handles it is pretty cool. I could spend another hour talking about it, but there's really good documentation on the Windows side. If you look at the OMA DM support, where they talk about how they build out the resultant set of policy and what they do when you unenroll, and how it will basically, when you unenroll, it removes that node and then everything recomputes and everything. It's really cool. It's really cool if you're into it. I highly recommend it. It's probably one of the more underutilized documentation parts, but if you can find the OMA DM or OMA, yeah, the OMA DM spec in Windows, it's a long read, but it's a good read.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think we have, as a team, I think we need to do a better job like documenting those, because those
Mm-mm.
documentations, you're totally right. I totally agree with you there because they're very helpful, but it's really hard for customers to kind of translate, what they really
Mm-mm.
mean. You have
Yeah.
to kind of, bring the pieces to, and I'm talking about the documentation itself, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You have to bring the pieces together to, okay, so it's kind of puzzle, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's
Yeah.
very important for you to clarify this, and thank you for answering that as well.
And I'll say in catalog, like in other places, we'll handle logic like today, if you're setting up BitLocker, we'll put all the settings together that need to go together. And in settings catalog, we're sort of letting go of the reins a little bit, and you could create catalog or a setting that has, or a policy that has like 1 or 2 settings. And there is sort of this asterisk of like, use at your own risk, kind of know what you're doing before going too far into some of those, because you could cause some unintentional harm if you sort of add a bunch of settings, not really sure what they do into a catalog. So we're opening up, we're letting go of the reins a little bit in catalog and saying, hey, if the setting exists and you want to use it. One of my favorite ones that can mess you up is, let's see, I've definitely bricked Windows Phone devices by not allowing unenrollment and then figuring out some way to kill the network, like
Okay.
disabling the antenna, not allowing non-corporate Wi-Fi and not writing a corporate Wi-Fi, setting a proxy that doesn't exist with no exceptions.
Right.
And as soon as you kill network and all that stuff happens, it's tough to get back. So there is a little bit of a disclaimer there with settings catalog. But I mean, really, that comes with, you could do it today through OMA. And actually, that reminded me of something before you go into the next question.
Yeah, go
Actually,
ahead. Yeah, go
no,
ahead.
if do you have anything to add for that
No,
piece?
no, go ahead.
Okay. So uh, the migration piece, I was talking about missing settings. If you have something in OMA that's giving you a headache, flip that over to settings catalog as well. If you have something as a custom profile today that's sitting there
Oh,
as a
yeah.
custom profile, by all means, go use the settings catalog equivalent. That's really our goal, is that we can get rid of the need for a lot of those. And if it's not there today, check back. I think we're adding many, 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 many settings in the next few months. So
Excellent. No, that's
yeah,
very, very important to
yeah.
note. Thank you for that. Yeah.
And we do have coverage today of what should be in device restrictions for the most part. I get pings now and then of people say, hey, when's this setting? And, we're on the final bits of testing, or we need to tweak a little bit of the UX before we throw that one out. So just stay tuned for the next couple months. It's February now, so stay tuned. More stuff is coming. More good stuff is always coming. So,
There we go. Yeah, that's awesome, man.
yeah.
That's great. So I think, yeah, we addressed, you talked about conflict resolution. I feel like we touched on that one. I don't think we have to touch on this one again. So, okay, so let me see if we can clarify this for customers as well, because I've heard that as well. Like, what is the difference between um, settings catalog,
Mhm.
templates, and security baselines?
Yeah, so today they're very different, especially ADMX templates and like all the different types of templates that we have today. They're all very different. And you've seen if you try to, there are some scenarios where in order to fully manage the scenario, you might end up creating multiple profiles. Kind of as I touched at the top of this, if you want, we pretty much want to put everything into settings catalog, and then have templates would be a subsection of settings, a little more curated. And then baselines will have recommendations. And today that's true. Moving forward, our plan is that as we sort of spread the simplicity of the backing for settings catalog across the experience, you'll start to see things like they'll all sort of create the same policy type on the back end. So
Mhm.
no matter what the settings are, they'll create a similar policy in the back end. Instead of today, it'll be like a window. If you've looked at the graph docs, you'll see like there's a Windows 10 general configuration, endpoint security profile is a different type. We want to really simplify that out, and what that helps us with is it's quicker to add things. It's also they'll play nicely together, so we can do duplicate, replace, or not replace, import, export, all that kind of stuff is where that's kind of the next thought of what we're thinking um, about being able to deliver now that we're sort of in this spot that we are
Mhm.
with all the good stuff that went behind the settings catalog.
Cool.
So settings catalog, build what you want, templates. Here's some suggestions of some things that should go together, and then baselines. Here's some things that go together with. They're probably going to be bigger too, right? Like the security baseline has 100 and 192 settings or something like that.
Right.
Um, but those will have recommendations. So we want to get away from having to think about like where's this setting, how's this work, what's the reporting like for this, and more so say like everything's unified. Do you want build your own? Do you want to build a kit car, right? Do you want to start build everything out? Do you want something that's ready to go, or do you want something with recommendations fully set up and
Yeah,
you
no,
could
that's a
just
good point.
deploy?
And
Yeah.
also important to know that security baselines come from the well-known Windows security
Yeah.
baselines being around for 20 plus years, right? And it's kind of
They're
the same
heavily,
concept
yeah,
coming to the cloud now, coming to Intune.
super
Um,
curated. Yep.
super created, yeah, curated. Cool. I think that addressed that. That's great, Mike. Let me see here. Next one. Oh, one of the things that a couple of people mentioned, but I think you just answered. Why we don't have VPN Wi-Fi settings in settings catalog,
Mm.
but that's more a thing for templates, right? My understanding.
Yeah, and there's some time. So like we'll have there are settings that determine like how Wi-Fi should behave on a device, or like how VPN should behave on a device. But those things that we're calling like instanced, where you can have multiple Wi-Fi profiles, multiple VPN profiles, and the crux here is the CSP expects certain things in a certain way, or there's special logic about how they should be handled, how they should be removed. A good example is like a cert-based Wi-Fi or cert-based VPN, where you're going to upload your trusted root cert, and then you're going to deploy SCEP, and then you're going to deploy your
Mm,
VPN profile that
yeah,
uses
that's a
all
good way
that
to
stuff. If you try
explain.
to do that in settings catalog, you're going to be going crazy trying to link all that stuff together. The templates just make sense for that kind of stuff. So
Right. No, that
yeah.
makes sense. I think that also addresses that. That makes people think, oh, you should not expect to see those type of settings in settings catalog. So just to make sure that we're clarifying that.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
And I
Go ahead.
mean we're open to feedback. So
Yeah. Yes.
if we are
Good point.
sitting here next year and I'm like, "Oh, we did this and we decided, you know what? Everyone actually wants multiple VPN profile instances in the settings catalog, and this is why, and we're convinced that it's a good approach, then, we're open to feedback." So
Good point.
hit the
Yes.
comments,
Yeah.
right? Hit the comments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hit like, subscribe.
Yeah.
and the bell for notifications, and then
Yeah.
add your comments. Yes,
Yeah.
good one. So you are shipping this right now with support for Windows and Mac OS, right? And Mac OS is specifically for ad settings.
Yeah.
So do you have plans to expand this for other platforms like iOS, Android
Um,
in the future?
yeah. Yeah, yeah. So it really comes down to need. So the same way that I said, like, don't migrate unless you absolutely need to, it's the same for us. So we found that with Windows, we needed to simplify. There's no better, we needed to simplify. And settings catalog is a great way to say, like, hey, here's everything. So we close the gap of the settings we don't support. We're reducing the reliance on custom OMA. There's so many settings. I think so. We pull in every setting, whether it's ADMX, from a CSP, if it's a CSP with ADMX backed, if it's ingested like Edge and Office, if it's an ingested ADMX where it's not in Windows, but we're taking the ADMX and delivering it down to the device, we want all of that to be in settings catalog. Some of the platforms aren't there yet, and so we're working through. But for new stuff that's coming down the pipe, this is our go-to going forward. And
Cool.
yeah,
Cool. No, this is great. It's good to know.
and like I said,
Uh,
we're adding settings
yes, we're adding
everywhere. Yeah.
settings,
Yeah.
adding more and more and more.
Yes.
So this one is actually a question that I still hear, of course, but there's also a user. I know after these questions here, we wanna
User
address a
voice.
few of kind of just get your take, right? So
Yeah.
again, it's not about promises, not about
Yep.
something that we're gonna tell people is gonna be available, in 2 weeks or whatever. It's really to get your take, right, as the feature owner for this area, so you can so I think it's important for customers to hear directly from you, right? So
Yeah.
this one is actually one user voice, I think one of the most voted user voices for your area, which is about having capabilities to duplicate and clone duplicate and export settings. And I
Yep.
know, correct if I'm wrong, I know this is available for endpoint security right now, the duplicate ones,
Yeah.
right? But I think this question would be specifically targeted for settings catalog for you.
Yeah. True. It's in endpoint security. And we are looking at how basically, yeah, it makes sense. It's logical. We should have duplicate, import, export, all that good stuff. Yeah. It just makes sense. It's a matter of time to when we can go and do it right. Right. Um,
Cool.
Probably want to make sure that it probably not carry the same assignments. Um, we just got a couple things we got to verify, and yeah, that should be the logical next step.
Okay. Cool. That's
Yeah,
good to know. See,
yeah,
people. So this is in the radar.
it's on the radar.
Yeah.
I'd say it's in the backlog.
Yes.
But it's been in the backlog. It's been in user voice. People have commented, and we did it for endpoint security. It's even easier now with settings catalog, the way it's written. We don't have to save all the states for all the stuff that we might think isn't configured and all that stuff. So yes, yes, yes,
Cool.
yes, yes, in a
That's very
deterministic
important.
way. Yeah,
There we go. Yeah, exactly. That's important too. That's awesome,
yeah,
actually. Okay, so this one is because we have a lot of people that like using the policy sets, right? So another
yes.
motorcycle there. We're looking at
I
the
don't know what it
squirrel.
is.
Squirrel has some
No,
questions for us.
squirrel. No, it's dogs. I don't know. I don't know. Oh, it's dogs.
A dog's
Yeah,
okay. There
yeah.
we
I don't
go.
know if the motorcycle was caught. Was that in the first part or
It
was that in
was,
the?
man. It was. It was
Oh,
awesome.
okay. So the
Vroom.
motorcycle went by when there was good audio, and then yeah, it didn't came. That's
Exactly. Yeah. It was
yeah.
motorcycle fault that we recording this actually.
Yeah, and the garbage man's already come today.
And the-
So earlier we were chatting, and the garbage man was outside making a
exactly.
ruckus. So we're good now. We're good
We're
now.
good. We're good. Yeah. All the
Well, except the
silence.
dogs. That's okay.
Hopefully my kids are not gonna come here and start kind of messing around. All right. So yeah, policy sets, right? So
Yep.
do we have plans on kind of expanding and adding settings catalog to be part of policy sets as well?
Very soon. Very soon.
Very
So this
soon.
is February. Yeah.
Cool.
Very soon. Yeah.
Cool.
Definitely by
This
the time we go GA.
There we go. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we didn't answer your question here, if we're like, okay, you guys have these questions of yours, I want
This is
you to
all
answer this question.
staged. Yeah.
Exactly.
You guys got
Exactly.
all the easy questions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys are all like actors.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you have your question, please send your question here in the comments. I'll talk to Mike. I'll try to answer myself. I'll talk to Mike to answer your question. Okay. So make sure that we're addressing the questions that you guys have. I believe those are kind of the main ones right now for settings
Yeah.
catalog, but I could be wrong. Right, Mike?
Yeah.
We could be wrong.
There's another note I want to add. There's another one note I
Go
want to
ahead.
add. If it's
Let's add
broken,
notes.
open a support case.
Yes.
Head over to help and support. I think it still says help and support in your admin console in MEM. Oh, troubleshooting and support. Click troubleshooting and support. Go through, open a support case. One of our many, many, many lovely and incredibly helpful support folks
Yes.
will contact you, try and help you out. If it's feedback, head to user voice. As you have seen here, we look at them. So definitely head to user voice. Look for one first, maybe upvote one. And if nothing else, reach out, comment.
Then
Go to Ignite.
go to the comment section.
Yeah.
Of this
But
video.
if it's broken, open a support case.
Very good point. Very good
Yeah.
point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point, man. All right, man. Thank you so much. You're awesome. Thank you for your time again. Thanks
You're
for
awesome.
watching again, guys. See you soon.
All right. Bye.